Sangria.
Yes, sir. Gucci. Hey, for all my listeners out there, man, we got an absolute treat for you today, Jack. Man, we got one of the greatest legends in the comedy game ever.
Yes.
Did y'all hear what I just said? I said ever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we're going to sit down with Mr. Bob Sumner today, man. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about what he's doing and the different things that he's got going on in the comedy world, you know what I mean, along with other things that he may be doing. So for all my listeners out there, man, y'all heard it first right here. We also got Sonny in the building, you know what I'm saying? So listen,
hey.
For all my listeners, man, Mr. Bob Sumner's in the building. You know?
Salute.
Salute. Hey, how are you, Mr. Sumner?
I'm fantastic right about now. How y'all doing?
We have good.
It's so good to see you too, for real. Like,
yeah.
Respect to a legend.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah.
Although.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's just crack it off, man. Where you originally from, and how long you've been putting the work in that you've been putting in.
Well, I'm originally born in Elizabeth, New Jersey, raised in Roselle, New Jersey. Dropped out of daycare at 3.5, and was raised in a barbershop called Hollywood in Linden, New Jersey. You know, it's crazy, but when I say dropped out of daycare, and you know, my education was like in a barbershop, for real, man. You know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, coming from back east, those are a lot of places where you learn a lot of lessons. Those are the places where you get mentored in ways that you probably didn't understand until you got older in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was real interesting that my dad had a barbershop next to a bar. You dig?
Oh, wow.
So it was a whole lot going on there. And then that was in Linden, New Jersey. Then in Roselle, New Jersey, where I, you know, was educated in school, my grandfather had a laundromat next to a bar. You know what I mean? So
it was all
I graduated from Seton Hall University, and I'm very proud of that. But I'm also proud of what I call St. George Avenue University.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the block, you did? Yeah. So that all of that happened before I got to Def Jam University.
Okay.
You know? So it's been a nice ride, man. Nice ride.
So what was in the water back then that like sparked your love for comedy and, you know, talent scouting? Like what was in the water back then? Like, I mean, I know you probably grew up funny too, like crack jokes in class.
No, it wasn't even about talent scouting or anything like that. Okay. What it was that I come from an entertainment background. You know, my uncle's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, and what happened with that is my parents got, like, they were turned on to the Apollo Theater, world famous Apollo Theater, back in the day. So they used to bring me and my brothers to the Apollo, even after my uncle retired from singing and things of that nature. And my mom also, she worked at RCA Records, you know.
Okay.
So and my brothers were entertainers, they were musicians and stuff. But me as a little kid, it's crazy because when I say it, people think, you know, I'm bugging, but I actually saw Moms Mabley like 20 times as a kid. You know, seriously, perform live along with like Nipsey Russell, Slappy White, a young Richard Pryor. Like that was embedded in me as, you know, before I started elementary school. Right. You know, so the comedy thing was one thing, but then it was the music that was popping over at the Apollo, whether it was the Motown Review or the James Brown Review. Like I saw all of them in the heyday, you
Right.
know. And I mean, I might be, you know, dating my age, but yeah, that was what it was all about for me. You
So
know?
let's talk a little bit about you though. Let's go back. You know what I'm saying? Because you said you went to Seton Hall, right?
Yeah.
What did you go to Seton Hall for? Like, what was your major, your minor? Like, what was the education part of that?
It's crazy because when I left Roselle High School, I was really planning to go to Tuskegee. You know, Tuskegee. Yeah, I was going to go down to Alabama. My brother was stationed down there, and I used to go down there and would play ball over at Tuskegee. And you know, I was like, damn, I could come down here and make something happen. But at the same time, I was able to get turned on through my dad to a situation at Seton Hall, and I had my eyes on Seton Hall for a minute because again, I was into entertainment a lot. I used to have parties after my basketball games and stuff like that. And there was a gentleman from my hometown that was on the radio there at Seton Hall. And I always, you know, I was torn in between being a teacher or getting involved in radio TV. So I took an opportunity through the Educational Opportunity Program at Seton Hall, and I got into elementary education.
Wow. Okay.
And it was crazy because I got an opportunity to be like a student teacher at 18 years old.
Wow.
And when I went to the school where I was, it was like it went up to seventh grade, eighth grade. And here I was just out of high school where our high school went from eighth grade to 12th grade. So it was like, man, it was kind of crazy. You know, when I started yeah, so I decided that I was going to switch my major and decided to go into become a communication major and with a minor in African American studies. So I had the best of both worlds because I was getting that education that I could have gotten at Tuskegee through the African American Studies program, but yet I also was able to get into radio broadcasting, and I actually had my own radio show at 19.
Wow.
You know, yeah, it was crazy, man. So I became kind of popular doing that. And then I was very involved in the Black Students Union. Like I was always making moves, man. Even back my high school years, I was like, you know, I was always making moves. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No doubt. And on top of that, right, also, being that you stayed home in Seton Hall, so that means you were able to go back and forth, and you always were able to get that block training. You know
well,
what
it
I'm
was
saying?
always you right on time with that, man, because Seton Hall University, it really was like I remember my sociology paper was based on South Orange Avenue, where Seton Hall was located, because you had the best of both worlds. You had the hood, and then you had the people that was doing well up the hill. You know what I mean? And it was no different than where I had come from. You know, I came from some people that was doing well, and then we also had the hood, and I had a mixture of all of it. And Seton Hall gave me an opportunity to see how everybody was living. Because I never forget when when my English class, you know, they say, raise your hand if you read this book or that book or that book. It was like maybe 20 books they mentioned, and I had heard of like 3 or 4 of them. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to like flip the script a little bit.
So, were you able to build a team from there as well too? Like,
did I what? I'm sorry.
Was you able to build a team from that too as well? Had your own little team where you were able to build a team?
Oh, was I able to build a team? Let me tell you something. We were able to, when we first, like 6 days after high school graduation, I was at some camp they took us to through the program at Seton Hall. You know, so we like bonded. All my crew, we had a little basketball squad playing different colleges. It was crazy. And when we came back to school for the freshman first semester, we were all out on the courtyard one day, and we saw some people coming out of the student center. It was a few Blacks, you know, coming out. They were upperclassmen and stuff. So I asked them, you know, because I kind of took off. I had like a leadership. I always been like a captain type, leader type dude, right? So I asked them, where are you coming from? And they said, the Black Students Union meeting, right? And we were like, well, where's everybody? Why is it only y'all? And I had a whole crew outside. I said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do next week or next Thursday at 4:00. We're going to round up all the troops and we coming into the meeting, right? And we all came in, all my cats, and we kind of like became like the Black Student Union with the couple upperclassmen. And we started doing things like we created an underground newsletter called Kuji Jukalia, Self-Determination. You know, took that from one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, right?
Right.
And we had a intramural program for sports. We had it was crazy. We were able to bring in the first Black homecoming queen.
Right.
You know, and it was all in concerts. I started doing, because I was into the music scene, you know, I started booking Roy Ayers and Phyllis Hyman. It was crazy, yo.
Right.
That was my freshman year.
Yeah, so here's what I'm hearing, right? Because I too, from back east, did a lot of different things and all that, right? One of the things that I'm most proud of, right, is you being able to being you at St. Seton Hall, you were able to bring a lot of Black experiences, a lot of different things that we was going through at the time that wasn't being recognized. You was able to put that in the forefront at school. Like, you was able to not just put it up there, but also lead and show people how to get this done.
And these people trusted you.
There's no doubt about it from day one. First of all, it was like we put together a little basketball team and we went out to play, you know, the other colleges, and, you know, during the summer, it was like a big thing. And we went up to Uppsala University, which was Uppsala College, which was right there, not too far from Seton Hall in East Orange. And we started, and that was the first time everybody got a chance to ball. And I was balling that day. I had 20 something, 30, I don't know how many, but it was like one of them things where, you know, they saw that I was serious about everything. Right. And then even we created a football team called the Black Student Union Bucks. And we were playing against all of the white fraternities and all that. And we were like, we wasn't giving up no points. It was like crazy, like right from the door. And we was very well accepted by the upperclassmen, you know. And we even got into a thing where we was bringing all of the fraternities together. Wow. You know what I mean? And so all of the leaders of the fraternities, we used to meet. And on my radio show, I would like bring on all of the Black athletes that were excelling. I would have like a conversation like we're having right now. It was crazy what I was doing up there.
No, you know? It was absolutely a beautiful thing, because, you know, we're around this. Let's just say we're around the same age. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, okay, I hear you. I'll take that. Mm-hmm. I got the little gray though. I see, you know, you got the little you keeping it Black. All right.
Keeping it Black. You know what I'm saying? And I know when I was in school, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, because I went to school in New York and, you know, Manhattan and all that, and then at the time, you know, I was in communications and video and all that, and they wasn't really trusting me with taking cameras to Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? And but I had to make a big fuss about, you letting these people take the cameras to Jersey, but you don't let me take them to Brooklyn. But I said all that to say, to be able to be in the forefront that early in the game in communication, man, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, man, that you was doing up there. You know what I mean? Especially with your radio show, and the TV and everything that you was doing, man, had to be incredible. So after you left college, what was your next step? Like, how did you fall into the whole, into the business itself? Because you was doing a lot.
Right.
I was doing more than a lot. It was crazy, but what happened was I was trying to find what color was my parachute. Okay, word up. And it's a book that my uncle turned me on to that helped me try to figure out what I needed to be doing. But in the meantime, I needed a job.
Right.
You know, so what better job could I get than to go back to my high school and substitute teach? Okay. And that way I was reaching back, you know, pulling up the next generation. And I was like assistant coaching the basketball squad. You know, I was helping the teachers put together a homecoming pageant. You know, the first one, like I was hosting like fashion shows. Like I almost, it felt like I was the counselor of the class of '87. I'm trying to tell you, up there, it was like crazy how it was all going on. I should say not the counselor, but the advisor. Like I was trying to help raise money for, that was my little brother's class.
Okay.
You know, so I was like, let me leave, because they were fun. It was a lot of fun.
I'm
so
sure
it was like,
I'm sure you saw talent in your students and different things like that too, and was able to put some of them on.
Put it this way, I would take like a couple of the kids that worked in the audio visual with Mr. Diakili. It was a couple guys that they were into lighting and stuff, and I was giving a lot of parties and stuff in town. So I would have them come and be my light guys, because I was a DJ as well. Me and my partner, DJ Hines, we were doing the damn thing. So it was always, and I see you got the Yankee cap on right there. My dad's brother-in-law played for the Yankees.
Okay.
You know, he was all-star, Willie Randolph.
All right. Yeah.
Well, I was when I was a freshman in high school, that's when they was like winning World Series championships and stuff. So I was like always around, I said, I got to get some of that. Right. Not knowing that I would change the game through, when I started working at Def Jam,
Right. Yeah. So how did that whole thing set up? I mean, how did you fall into the whole thing with the Def Jam? I mean, it's not like you just walked into Def Jam and said, I'm Bob Sumner and this is what I want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. How did that movement start?
See, that was a whole decade later.
Right.
It was a whole, while I'm building this thing, I learned that, while I was a substitute teaching and I had read this book, What Color Is Your Parachute? I learned how to network.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How to network. And it's so crazy because the same place where the whole comedy thing really, really took off, I had been there, working prior to that, like DJing and stuff like that. And I met a man who I said, wow, this may be my in to figuring it all out. And his name was John Amos. Okay. You might know who John Amos is. But Mr. Amos was he was the artistic director at a place in Plainfield, New Jersey called the Grant Avenue Community Center. And they were doing plays there and stuff. And he had this play called Forever My Darling that he was getting ready to do. And he brought me in to be his street team. Okay, this is before street team. I was going around putting posters and stuff on corners and stuff on poles and in barbershops and things like that. But also I was gaining that knowledge from him about the business. You know what I mean? And not only that, there was another brother by the name of Chuck Brownlee who I met at Seton Hall when his band would be playing, in the caf. His band would be playing in the cafeteria while we switching classes and stuff. And, I was the music dude and a lot of people knew me from the radio. So we became friends and he started, he was like a promoter with like Lonnie Liston Smith, Phyllis Hyman, Gil Scott-Heron, all these people. So I was working with him too. And I was actually the a production assistant for Dizzy Gillespie. One time, you know what I mean? At a time. So I've had this opportunity to get my feet wet, and that all came from my uncle Bobby Townsend, right? Just like Robert Townsend, his name is Bobby Townsend, and he was into the communications business, real serious. Okay. And he just showed me the ropes. Like it was all about networking. So
that's very important. Very, very important.
So it led to it led to me taking on an opportunity that I didn't even see it coming. All right. And you have to brace yourself for this because what happened was I received a phone call from a gentleman that used to listen to me on the radio.
Wow.
Okay. And he said that he had a friend downtown Newark, New Jersey. They had a like a restaurant, and they was looking to try to figure out what they can do in terms of changing up what it was all about, because it was kind of like a strip club type restaurant. It was crazy, right? So I got with one of my classmates from high school who was a musician. And he actually ends up, he's played with everybody, but for the past 20 some odd years, he became the drummer for the Average White Band.
Wow.
Okay. You figure I become this Def Comedy Jam cat, Rocky becomes, big in the industry. But at this time, we was trying to figure out what color was our parachute. You did? So we went down here and we looked at everything. And if you know anything about North New Jersey, Sarah Vaughan and James Moody and all these people, it was big on jazz, right? So we was like, why not bring jazz back to Newark, right? Live entertainment, as well as like Red Fox and Jackie Gleason and them used to hang out on Clinton Ave and do comedy in between sets and all that. Let's bring comedy. Let's try like comedy and jazz. So it really took off, okay? It really, after a while, like the first night, we might have had 6, 7 people, but it just started becoming, more and more a place called Terminal D. And from that, I got a call about another place that was opening up where I was born in Elizabeth called the Uptown Cafe, right? So I took over, it was a 6-minute drive from the North location to the Elizabeth location. So I'm doing comedy and jazz, in these spots, mainly jazz at Uptown and comedy and jazz and other types of music in North. So now I get a phone call from someone who was referred to me by a young lady who her husband at the time was in one of the bands, right? But she was a singer with Gregory Hines, okay? So she was, her cousin was managing this music act and was trying to get him booked in the club that I was doing. And I didn't have any openings at the time, but I received a call from some other guys that was having this event up in Ossining, New York, right? So I said, well, maybe I can call and get him booked on this gig, because I had one of the young comedians from the club who had just got out of Rutgers. His name's Bill Bellamy, right? I asked him, I got him on the gig. So I got this musician on the gig. So the lady who had called me, she's at the gig and she liked Bill, right? So when I saw that she liked Bill, and I saw that she was working at Def Jam, I didn't even know she worked at Def Jam. I just thought she was just a manager. But here again, with my networking, I said, let me call her, right? I said, let me call her and see if her name's Carmen Ashurst, right? I said, let me call her and see if I could get Bill to maybe open up for, one of the Rush Def Jam acts, because they need comedy, because Chris Thomas, the mayor of Rap City, right? Chris was the only one really doing comedy with their tours and stuff. So I said, let me see if I could get Bill in there. And she told me that she got a promotion to president of the company, and she was looking for an assistant.
Wow.
I said, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm trying to figure out, this was like that break, right? So I got in there as assistant to the president, which led me to know everything about how to run a company. And this is Def Jam. This is Crush Groove, son. You hear what I'm saying? I'm like tripping. And at the end of the day, while I'm doing all my job and stuff like this, Russell is getting ready to partner with Stan Lathan on on television projects. And I'm already doing this comedy thing on the underground in Newark.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So how did
that's how Def Comedy Jam happened? Just
okay.
like,
and so how did the connection with, of course, Russ, you and Russ, and y'all getting, together with the Def Comedy Jam?
I was all in. I was all in. Carmen had told them what I had going on, and they came over and saw what I was doing. And then I put together a showcase at this place called Sweetwater's, right? And I had all of the people who I kind of knew, doing the underground, but nobody was making no major moves at the time. Right. And we did this showcase for HBO with two we did it and HBO gave us a pilot, which was like two show pilot, and it became 104 shows at the end of the day.
Wow.
I went around the country and I put together damn near everybody that you see that's making a lot of moves. Their first move started right over here.
No, listen, I get it. So for me, I'm kind of biased because I kind of know the history. You know what I'm saying? And in my eyes, listen, Bob Sumner can't do no wrong because I've seen him do so much right. You know what I'm saying? So for me to watch you move and do the things that you do, like, how did the whole thing happen at Showtime at the Apollo? Like,
well, again, the what happened. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. No, it's crazy because after, that run that we had with Def Jam, let's say from 91 to 2001.
Yep.
Okay, because we all know what happened. I got stories with 9/11. You know what I mean? It was like things was getting really crazy. And I kind of had been on tour. It was like Def Comedy Jam was like college for like all them guys like Bernie Mac and Chris Tucker and Mike, all those guys. It was almost like a college where each year it was like a new crew. Right. And I would travel all over the country because it wasn't just about Hollywood and New York. I would do, because you talk about scouting. If I wasn't going to do what I did, I would have been a basketball coach or a scout or something, a big time one. Like I was serious about that. But at the same time, I was serious about what I was into because I saw what could happen. Yes. But everything kind of went left in the 2000s. It wasn't but so many comedians making noise. Like Kevin Hart won a contest for me in 1997. Wow. But nobody knew who he was until later on. And there's so many others like that. But then what happened was the pandemic, okay? The pandemic gave everybody an opportunity to do nothing but look at this screen that I'm looking at right now. Right. You know what I mean? So now you have all these people making up these funny videos and stuff and getting all these views, and the comedy clubs decide that, they ain't nothing but a restaurant bar anyway. I could get these people to come fill the place. Everybody's acting like they're comedians. But we don't see no more Fridays or house parties. When you saw the comedians from Def Comedy Jam, you had the Bernie Mac show, you had the Martin show, you had Steve Harvey show. Like we was actually creating stuff because I tell you, every Monday, Tuesday, after the show would air on Friday, repeat on Saturday, all the casting agents would call me. You probably even heard Ice Cube say he got Chris Tucker from Def Comedy Jam, not from the casting. Right. You know what I mean? So now I'm watching. During the pandemic, I'm trying to figure out how to, what's going to happen after this, because in comedy, things needed to shut down because things really got all over the place. So what I decided to do after hearing T.I., I heard T.I. interviewing Chris Tucker. I heard Shannon interviewing JB Smoove, and they was talking about, can they get back to the golden age of comedy when all that was going on? And I'm saying, contrary to popular belief, I know where they all come from. I know how it happened. Right. So all I'm gonna do is take my formula and do it again once I could fly again. Right. And that's what's happening right now. I got the Rising Stars of Comedy. This coming Tuesday, I'm shooting I just finished shooting 2 hour specials with some of my rising stars, and now we're getting ready to shoot 3 more on Tuesday. Like when I say I'm back, I'm really back to show everybody how this thing really, really works now, because it's comedians galore right now. It was comedians before, but when you have the formula and it's no different than why the Lakers and why certain teams, the Celtics, why certain teams stay on top. It's because it's a formula to it.
It's an absolute formula. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to ask you about that, about when you're speaking on the formula, right? The comedians now, right, from the comedians before, do you see such a big difference? Because before, comedians used to have actual sets. They would have routines. They would practice their craft. Now it seems as if there's a lot of comedians, not saying that they're not good, there's a lot, but it seems a lot of them now feel as if they can just be funny on Instagram, then they can make a lot of money.
Well, again, I mean, that's just where it is right now, but that ain't where it is for me. Right. You know what I mean? I'm here to change the game again, because I know what made. I mean, there's so many, from Dion Cole to Cedric the Entertainer. All those guys actually auditioned for me live. You know what I mean? I actually had to see these guys, the Avion Crockett's of the world, the Donnell Rollins, all these guys, Mike F, all these guys were stand-up comedians, and there's still some out there. And that's what I did. I went out on the road. I went to like 35 cities. I looked at 700 comedians, and I broke that shit down to 70 people.
Wow.
70 out of 700. Because they are still out there, and they have points of view, they have things to say, but nobody is checking for them, because now they just keep recycling the same comedians I put on years ago. I mean, the queens of comedy and the kings of comedy, they were once just Def Jam comedians before some of them hosted Comic View or something. But half the comedians that you ever saw on Comic View never did Def Jam, but they did Comic View 6-7 times. You know what I mean? Because that's just, I mean, and nothing wrong with that. That made my job easier. You know what I mean? Gave them an opportunity to do what they do. Not saying that they're not funny or anything like that, but that's basically how it goes.
Right.
And then too, I just want to take it back, because like, you didn't really just discover the comics, you really redefined their voices. And like, was it a time, like, how did you know who to put on set with who? Was it a time with the comedians, the certain comedians? How did you was able to master that and different things like that with putting different ones on stage with each other?
Even with that, when I say to you that, say I would book 60 comedians, all right? And I got to tell you the story about one time I had to book 61. Okay, but I had booked 60 comedians because we had 12 episodes. In each episode, besides Martin as the host, we would have 4 comedians, because you never know when the bright lights came on who was going to choke. Even though they had a great showcase when I saw them, once they got to New York City and the lights came on, you don't get what you don't get. So that's how it really went down. I would look at the comedians, and then I would look at, my comedians came from all over the country. And that's why sometimes, and comedians didn't understand that I wanted them to be better. I wanted them to make a difference when they hit that stage. So if it's 5 comedians in Chicago, and it's 1 in Cleveland, and it's 1 in Milwaukee, I'm taking the 1 in Milwaukee and the 1 in Cleveland and the 3 in Chicago, and those other 2, they'll come back next season, after they done got their chop. And some of them couldn't understand that, but they then would say to me, I see what you mean. That's why every now and then there's a comedian on social media that want to MF me because they didn't get that opportunity, and now they have gotten better. Good for them, but I have to stick to my guns. You know what I mean? And I'm good with that. But that's how it went. And then after I would have assembled those 5 comedians to shoot, I would put them in a place where, and I mean, I would have, like, I knew I needed to get the show off to the races. Then I knew that I needed to close the show hot. And in between, I would, it would kind of like be those three comedians. And one of the most famous Def Comedy Jam shows was I would have Chris Tucker open up and Bernie Mac close, talking about I ain't scared of you, right? But the I ain't scared of you came because during the regular audition, the regular show, when I used, the 5 comedians, one of them foiled. Well,
Right.
yeah, folded. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So about time Bernie came on, that wasn't nothing more than a callback from. That's why the audience like really went off, because they remembered how that one comedian flopped, and Bernie kind of reminded him, and that was Bernie's second time on Def Jam.
Okay.
A lot of people forget that the first one was Stir It Like Coffee. You know what I mean? That was his first. I ain't never had no pumpkin pie, all that. Yeah.
So no, in my travels and the different things that I do, I run across. So I hear your story when you're talking about how different comedians are mad at you because you didn't put them on at a particular time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. Because I hear the stories because sometimes down here I promote comedy shows and then I hear they see a picture of me and you because there was a time me and you took a picture in Newark at one of Blasting Games events. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I rock with Blast a lot. Let's just say that. So
he raised me, man.
Right. So I didn't want to, this is your turn, baby.
Right.
I didn't want to get me in. So
game.
So there was a time where we was in Newark and me and you were standing next to one another. And I said, that's when I knew this is the real deal, baby. I said, Bob, I need you to take a picture with the magazine in your hand. You looked at me and shit, and then you looked around and shit. Then you look back again, and you snatched the magazine up and looked at it, and you said, when am I be in this motherfucker?
Yeah, I probably was just bullshitting.
No, I get it. Listen, I didn't take it personal at all because I understand. I, too, was brought up in a particular way. You know what I'm saying? So I understand just the decorum of the way that we kind of interact with one another. So that's
word.
It was no particular.
Nah.
I ain't sensitive and all that. You know what I'm saying? Because there's some sensitive folks out here. You know what I mean?
But the other thing though, in defense of all that, you wasn't the only one with magazines doing that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, come on, man.
Right.
Come on, man. It's all good. Here we are. Right?
Right. No question about that. So moving forward, man, like you just talked about what you're doing right now, man. Let's talk about that or all of the things that you're putting in place right now for comedians or auditions or whatever. I need you to tell the story, man, on what you actually trying to do right now in the comedic world.
It's crazy because again, my road to the Apollo is just God's calling, because there was a time after 2000 and I'm just like chilling. And I said, I have to make my move to LA. Okay. I have to go to LA because right now things is kind of stagnant here. Of course, I'm getting a check. Mm-hmm. But that's from the past.
Right.
I need a new check.
Right.
Right.
With some new signatures.
I need some new
energy.
I need some new thrillers. Right. Yeah. So I decided to go out to LA and I partnered with somebody and I'm thinking that we're gonna make a lot of noise. And we had started making some noise, but it was a different type of dynamic because the climate out there is different. Everybody's trying to do what I've already done. Right. So it's like I ain't got nothing to prove to nobody, but yet I'm in the race with everybody else.
No,
so I decided that I was going to shoot all of the comedians. Like you go to a comedy show and the comedian on stage for 5 minutes, but then the reason he's on stage for 5 minutes because he's rushing to get off so he could take his DVD that he shot from whether he was on Def Jam, Comic View, Bad Boys, whatever it was, and maybe him at a banquet or fashion show, and now he out in the hall trying to sell these joints for $10-20 because he'll make more money there than he did on the show. However, it's like this thing is like the camera is moving and stuff, like you really. So I decided that I was going to identify the best comedians and shoot them, like give them a real professional thing and possibly get it on TV or whatever. And I actually did that and got some Showtime specials going on with some of them. But then with a lot of the other material that we had, one of my assistants decided to take the material and see if we can't take some of the comedy that actually had stories to tell. And you may have saw the show because I started a company called Laugh Mob for a minute. And we had a joint on True TV, and you could go online and see where we was taking the jokes and turning them into, like, you could see the everything being done. I'm getting a phone call right now. I'm gonna talk. Y'all could do this real quick. Just Bub, I'm doing an interview right now. Yeah, I saw you call before. I said I'm gonna do this now, and I shouldn't be that long, but at the same time, I may have to. If you're gonna get up now, I'll get back. I'll get back to you. All right, because I totally forgot it was at 5 o'clock. All right. This is my best friend here, man.
No, I get it. Listen,
so I holler back, but
yeah, like I said, this is Bob Sumner. You can't do no
right.
Never
stop. Never.
Right, but here's the thing. I was going to do it last week, but I had I had a cookout plan, that I had to do, and then today I knew that I needed to do this, but he and I lost one of our best friends, and one of our other best friends is in the hospital, so he was calling to see if I was going to ride with him right now. But we got it. We'll make all that happen. So
you talk about the laugh.
Oh yeah, so we took that material. Like I said, we had some specials, but then we took some of the other stuff and we put it online and was getting millions and millions of views. And then networks started calling and we put it on, but then the pandemic came. And everybody at the network lost their gigs. So we didn't have nobody to champion. Like the whole thing changed up. So at the same time, when I was in LA, I had a comedy show at the world famous Comedy Store. Right? And we were doing very well, but then an incident happened there that they kind of like put it on us. And it was crazy because that was the 5th year of me being in LA. I used to go to LA every 3 weeks. For 5 years. I would stay for 3 weeks because I was really into trying to build this thing. But once I saw what was going on, I was really trying to figure out, how I was going to head on back here, because what I also noticed was a lot of the comedians that I had really helped here on the East Coast went to the West Coast. And I said, man, I need to get back to the East Coast and pull some more of these guys up. You know what I mean? So wouldn't you know, when they asked me to not deal with the comedy club anymore, I came back home, got a call from somebody that asked me would I be interested in meeting with the Apollo. And next thing I know, I'm curator there, like maybe it might have been 2 months later. And I've been there since 2015.
Wow.
Yeah. Now at that same time, I started doing a show down in Willingboro, New Jersey. Every first Saturday, I would do a show down there. It was like a BYOB type joint, right? And it'd be packed, right? And I had my host, brother by the name of Marshall Brandon, right? Marshall, it's like when I saw Marshall for the first time, it was just like seeing how I saw Bernie and Bill and Chris and them. Like I knew he had something. I never forget. I told Will Packer one time. Will asked me at the film festival who had next. This is before I even started doing that gig. And I told him about Marshall. And when you know, years later, Marshall is the opening act for Dave Chappelle.
Wow, that's what's up.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how it goes. But I would use now, just like I had a room called the Peppermint with Bill Bellamy, then Mike Epps in Jersey. I would use that room, the Peppermint, to look at comedians to put on Def Comedy Jam. And now the room in Willingboro, I use it to put comedians into the Apollo. It's crazy. Like it's a method to my madness, you know.
No, it's absolutely.
And I don't look at tapes. I don't look at people sending me links and stuff because it's almost like you sending me, like when you're in high school, you sending me your game film, but you ain't showing me when you miss 5 jump shots in a row. You know what I mean? You know, so it's the same thing. You know, I want to see you live. I don't want to see you freeze up like Lucy on the I Love Lucy, you know, or Ralph Cramden or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have a particular favorite, like one person that like just really stood out comedian wise that was just like that captured the audience on and off, never cracked, never choked, anything like that? Who was like one of your favorites? That's just was like.
Well, I have a bunch of favorites now since I done created a management company. Because you know the thing is, back when I was doing it the first time,
Yeah.
I didn't have any, you know, I was trying to get to a certain place where I'm at that place now. But, you know, can you imagine if I could imagine if there was a time when, think about any of those Def Comedy Jam comedians, you know, I could have possibly, but it wasn't my time to do anything like that. Right. So now when I looked at those 700 comedians and broke it down to 70, I broke that down to 7.
Right.
And they rocking with me right now. So I don't want to be, you know, be biased or anything, but I do have, and they're the rising stars of comedy. And I have a management group called Legacy Entertainment Group, LEG. And that's where I just shot, 2 specials a couple of weeks ago with a young lady out of New Orleans named Saya Meads. Saya is like on her way. Okay. She's going to be, and then I have a kid from Jersey because, you know, I keep one in the pocket like Bill Bellamy. I have Rashawn Reese, you know, and then this week in New York, we're shooting Anthony Oates out of DC and a young lady by the name of Apple Brown Betty from Richmond. And I mentioned Apple Brown Betty because when I was saying that I would shoot 60 comedians.
Yeah.
And I would look at the comedians, you know, a lot of comedians would come to the Peppermint, right? So this one young lady had called and I was already about to deliver the 60 comedians to HBO, right? So she was in California and this was like on a Monday, Tuesday, right? And I told her that, you know, I really don't have any room, you know, because I'm getting ready to do this thing. She said, well, I'm coming anyway. And I'm driving. So she got some folks together and she drove to the Peppermint to perform on this Thursday night.
Okay.
When I tell you the place, now we done had some great performances at the Peppermint. This young lady tore the roof off, right?
Wow.
So that next day when I got to my Def Jam office, I called Russell and Stan, right? I said, I know that we only have 60 spots, but I think we need to do 61 because we're going to have to bump some anyway, right? Know who it was? Know who it was?
Who was it?
Cheryl Underwood.
Wow.
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 I can't take that up, man. Cheryl and I, boy, we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. Yo, that's a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? So what are you doing now on the West Coast? Like, you know what I mean? Is there anything that is happening now on the West Coast? Like,
well, yeah. Well,
the one company, you got all the different things going on.
Well, no, the only thing I have scheduled for the West Coast right now is I partnered with a brother named Jeff Friday. Jeff is the executive producer of the American Black Film Festival.
Okay.
And what Jeff has done now is through his company Nice Crowd is created the Because They're Funny Comedy Festival that's happening October 10th through the 12th down in Washington, D.C. This would be the third installment.
Okay.
So what we're doing in August is we're going to have the semifinals for the Young Comedian of the Year, Breakout Comedian of the Year event, where the six finalists will come to DC, and then they will get win some money and an opportunity to get an agent and all that. So we just got finished looking at over 350 entries.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got a question though, Bob, and I know you got to go, and it's been a while, but I'm curious to something right now. Have you ever written a book? Because you got so much history. I mean, there's so much going on. It probably take about 3 years, 10 years for you to even write the book. Have you ever just thought about writing a book about your many, many, many different things that you've done in your quest, man? You know what I mean? Even
Great
though
question.
it's nowhere near end, but
yeah, it's a great question. The book is coming in the beginning of 2026. We're working on it right now.
Okay.
Terry Benjamin, a gentleman who actually has been like a mentor of mine since I was like a junior in high school. He's an author. And, I was trying to figure out who was going to write my book with me. And I said, who better than somebody that really knows my whole journey? Right. So the book is definitely coming, as well as the docuseries.
Okay.
Because it's a lot to my rise. And it's actually, the tentative title is The Birth of Death, DEF. Who is Bob Sumner? Because a lot of people take credit for things that I did, and I'm good with that because God knows who did what. Right. And, there was 20 years ago, I was severely carjacked. And I was pretty messed up for a half a second. Wow. And it gave me an opportunity to really, I used to hear about God, but I didn't know him until December 14th, 05. I'm telling you. Okay. So, I look back at my whole career because there was a time when I even come back and I produced a season of Comic View, with the season that Kevin Hart hosted. Okay. That was during the same time of Obama's first term in office, and a lot of things was going on where the show had got put on the shelf, then they pulled it off the shelf. But during that time, I was able to see that I'm not done. I'm not done.
No, you're absolutely not. You absolutely are not done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when Sonny called me and told me what it is and we was gonna have this day, boy, I got excited. You don't know how excited I got. You know what I mean? It's
and I appreciate you too for reaching out, because like I'm like one of you too. Like you said, I network. That's me. I get out. I network all the time. My Instagram be. I'm a networker. So
Sonny absolutely makes it go.
But hey, I also want to let you know that 1120 East St. George Avenue, Linden, New Jersey. Every other Thursday night, I do a thing called Humble Tuesdays. The place is a place called Humble Pizza Kitchen. It's really cool. The drinks, food. I have my DJ Mozart in there. GL Douglas, another fine comedian. She hosts when she's not on the road. Okay. And what I do there, we call it the Comedy Gym. It's just like going to Planet Fitness or whatever. It's nothing worse than when you see a comedian that's telling the same jokes over and over because they don't really have a place to work on their new material, or punch up their old material. So we have a room where comedians are more than welcome, even those people that in the barbershop or in the lunchroom, and they be really funny and you tell them that they should be a comedian, but they don't really have a place to really try to be one. Right. We have that right there in Linden at the spot.
Wow, yeah. That's a beautiful thing. Hey, Bob, man, appreciate you coming out, man. You spending your time with us. You know what I mean? Before we go, I need you to shout out and plug. I know it's so much. To shout out and plug everything and everybody that's helped you get to where you are today, my brother.
That's a lot,
I
man.
know. That's why I was like, just say somebody, man. Anybody. Just you know, whether it be mom, dad, sister, brother, whatever.
No, I mean, even with that, you know, when you shout out so many people, and there's always that one that you leave out, you know. But the one person that I think everybody would understand is, I want to give an honor to God, bro.
Absolutely.
Because that's what makes me rock, along with my grandchildren. You know, I have two new grands.
Wow.
My granddaughter is 1 and my grandson is 2. That's Sky and Bryce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what this is all about.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's where it is. And I just want to thank everybody who has been in my corner for all these years, because there's been chapters to my life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And there's some people like my boy Bub, who just called me just now. You know, that's every bit of my life. And you know, I have one of my best friends is right now. He's been in the hospital for a while, and he was like my backcourt partner. You know, just my partner, Glenn Howard. You know, these are two. And then you know, our other partner, Frank Miller, he just passed away, and you know, rest in peace, Frank. You know, his birthday was yesterday. Wow. You know, and it's so I could go on and on and on and on with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But we are getting ready to make it happen, and it is what it is. You know,
absolutely.
So too, before you leave, if you can leave a message for the next generation of comedy curators that are out there, just drop some gems. If you could leave a message for them, what would you say to them?
It's not all about packing the house at the beginning. You know what I mean? You have to really, really stay on it. Stay true to what you're doing, because this is an art, not a hustle. You know what I mean? And it seemed like a lot of people out here thinking it's just fast money and stuff. But then, you know, you have to be consistent with your shows. You got to make sure that people are coming in there not just to laugh because they think they're supposed to laugh. You know, the comedian's supposed to really make them laugh.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, that's really how it goes. Okay. But if anybody, I mean, and I'm on Instagram, bob.sumner.
There we go.
Know, if anybody has any questions about anything, you know, I'm easy access. You know what I'm saying? Until you start talking reckless. I had a comedy page that I had to get rid of. I had a comedy page because what would happen is, you know, I had a comedy page because people had their flyers and all that. So they would be trying to put them on my regular page. I said, no, I got a comedy page where you could do anything you want. But then it became a thing where comedians started talking slick, you know, and trying to come at me and all that. I'm like, I ain't got no time for none of that.
No, not
first of all, I don't even know you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you're talking behind some letters. You're talking behind a typewriter, you know, and I'm out of that league. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, the whole thing with me is I stay in my lane. I applaud anybody that's trying to do what I have done, but I play different. You know what I mean? I have my own formula, and it is what it is. And everyone need to be original. Don't try to be nobody but you.
But yourself.
You know, you remember that song, Nobody Can Be You But You?
Yes,
you know
absolutely. Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
That's just how it is.
I know that's right. Hey, Bob, let me just say.
I got a series going on in Military Park with the Honorable Mayor Raz Baraka and the North Parks Commission. We do a nice little jazz event along with comedy. And the next one is in August 22nd. Okay. You know, that's pretty cool too.
No doubt. Okay. All right, Bob, let me just say this before you go, man. May you be blessed in all the things that you do each and every day that you do it, and may you prosper and each and every day in all the things that you do every day that you do, my brother. You heard?
There it is.
No doubt, baby. All right, salute, man, to the great one, man. Peace.
Easy.